Good morning, everybody from Asheville, North Carolina. I'm back in Asheville this week. Welcome to episode 144 of The Glow, Facebook Live, coming at you on Facebook Live. You'll also be able to hear us on SoundCloud, iTunes. Welcome, Zeerak. YouTube. It's a bunch of different places you'll be able to catch the replay. Really happy to be with you. Really blessed to be here together. Really blessed to have Zeerak Khan with us today as our featured guest. I'm excited to dive in with her. Another person that we have just amazing conversations together, and it's like, we should share these with people. And so that's what's going to happen today. So we're looking forward to that. When you're entering, you can share where you're from. Hit the heart button or the wow button. And feel free to comment anytime. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to share your perceptions on things as we move forward. I had a really great retreat this past weekend. Really beautiful. Big Glow retreat. The 4 levels of love. Kind of a different format. But it was really beautiful to move through these levels of love. Self-love, one, love of another, love of community, family, and then love of all that is. And it was really beautiful to move through these levels and kind of recognize how the self-love and the love of all that is are ultimately the same. You know, this recognition that everything that we see, everything that we experience, everything that we encounter is a reflection of this one self that we are. So it was beautiful to share that with a group of people and move through that together. It was really just and to kind of end in this space of being in that and being in the awareness of this essence of this unified field together. It was really beautiful. Welcome Phyllis, welcome Jordan, welcome Ida, welcome Jacqueline, welcome Bill, welcome Cheryl, welcome everybody. Thanks so much for being here. Welcome Annie. What a beautiful group of beings we have here together. So that was beautiful. And then after this kind of joyous exhaustion sets in afterwards, and just kind of resting and recuperating more yesterday. Welcome Jane. And looking forward to some upcoming retreats coming up in Stockholm, Sweden, and Italy in June. There's information below to tap into that. There's personal coaching sessions you can tap into. The books, The Big Glow and the Wow of the Now. Did I mention who I am? My name is Brian Piergrossi, author of The Big Glow and the Wow of the Now, life coach, retreat facilitator. This is episode 144. It's been a really joy to do this, and we've had some amazing guests on. We've had some mutual friends of Zeerak and I. One of them is Ash Ruiz, who was on a couple weeks ago. Val Tignini was on last week. Dale Allen Hoffman was on a few weeks ago. John Stringer was on a few weeks ago. And let's see if we can get Zeerak on and delve into some fun things together. Okay, so Z, your camera, we have to get your camera on. So I see you're here, but your camera needs to be on. So just make sure your camera's on, and we'll have you on as soon as you're ready. So yeah, it was really beautiful to have that opening together and be in this community together. And then there's a sense of coming back to the world, right? But it's actually really a going forward, not going back, because the world that you left is not the same as what you're going forward to, because you've changed, you've transformed. You're in a different space in your life now. You know, you're in a different space of where you are, what you've opened to inside yourself. So you move forward into this new place, and you come back to a place that looks familiar, right? But you're in a different space of evolution, of opening in your life, of where you are. And so there's something powerful about getting away, removing yourself from your normal surroundings, your routine, and then coming back fresh and opening yourself up to the next level of the journey for you with fresh, innocent eyes. That's something really powerful about that and sweet about that. So Z, just check if your camera is working, and I'll just send you an invite, and then you'll be on. So we have the weather here. It's been, I think most of the country, most of America, I think the world, the weather's just been really odd, really funny the last few weeks, well beyond the last few weeks. But I'm seeing Zeerak's message. But yeah, so it's been really cold. It's been raining, and it doesn't really felt like spring yet, except for a few days where it's been in the 80s. But we've kind of been oscillating between these different temperatures, and just being with what is and aligning with what is, and really appreciating what's happening. Yeah, let's have a community co-creative effort to get Zeerak on the camera. Thanks, Jordan. See if you can use your iPhone, Annie. I mean Z. See if you can use your iPhone and see if that works. I know you're concerned about the signal, but I would try the iPhone and see if that makes it happen. Meanwhile, I'm going to share a few things that we got into yesterday in talking with Zeerak that I'm going to delve into. So some really fascinating things. You know, it's the sense of, we talk about spiritual awakening, and I got into a conversation with a guy last night too, an elderly gentleman, friend of mine, and there's this sense of spiritual awakening. Is there a process to reach spiritual awakening, or is it something that there's no process to reach? So I was discussing it with this gentleman last night, and he was getting pretty heated, pretty like agitated, because he's been like putting energy into this process for decades, and trying to use these different strategies to wake up, and he's not quite there yet. And I was explaining about we're talking about magic, and the magic that's present, that's here, that's now, and magic being a metaphor, a different way of talking about God, a different way of talking about this divine essence that's here right now, and this sense of being present, to the magic that's here right now, of being present to what's here right now. Z, try your phone, your iPhone, or any phone that you have. Try using your phone to get the camera to work. That's my suggestion where you are right now. And it's such a fascinating thing, because the ego wants to have some way to attain awakening, wants to have some way to attain enlightenment. But who wants it? The ego wants to attain it. So then there's still the ego, and there's still this thing over here. So there's still this sense of, the egoic sense of separation, something to achieve or something to acquire, to add to oneself, to enhance oneself, right? Instead of the recognition that there actually is no sense of separation, the realization that there actually is no sense of separation, and there never was, and there never is, and there never will be. The recognition of the transcending the sense of separation, what's so amazing about it is it includes the sense of separation. That's what's so phenomenal about this awakening to the essence, is that this awakening to the transcendence of separation includes the sense of separation. If it doesn't include the sense of separation, then it's not all inclusive. Then there's a sense of separation from the sense of separation. So in other words, the way of saying it is, non-duality must include duality. Non-duality must include duality. So that recognition is something that happens in the moment. You know, it always happens in this present moment right now. There's no way to create a strategy to get to something that's ever present in this moment right now. And that's something I was talking about with Z yesterday. And she was talking about it in the realm of Tantra, right? In the realm of Tantra, and how people are using sexual practices, sexual techniques, and this gentleman I was talking to last night was also speaking about the same thing, using sexual practices and sexual techniques to come to a space of awakening, right? So she was saying, like, you're trying to have great sex to wake up, or trying to go into this deeper sense of presence. And she's pointing out how it's actually the opposite of that. It's actually the opposite of that. There's a sense of presence which creates the great sex, right? So people are sense of awakening which creates the great sex. So people in Tantra are actually pursuing it backwards, right? And it's a phenomenal thing to recognize that and to realize that, you know, the presence that's available in that regard. So that recognition changes every aspect of one's life, you know, across the board. So Z's having trouble getting on with us. I can't send you an invite because you're already here, so there's no way I can send you an invite. You're already with us. So the only thing I can do is add you on the camera. But when I go to add you on the camera, it says that you don't have a camera. So it says, can't bring Zeerak on camera. They can't join you because they can't join your broadcast at this time. So that's the situation. So what you could do is you could type where you are and connect that way. You could use your phone and join through the camera there. Or we could also maybe get like an audio, like have a phone and call you here and like talk to you here and connect this way with the audio. That's possible. We just call you on your phone. So just let me know how you wanna approach it, and all those options are available. Meanwhile, how's everybody else doing? Let me see who else is here. Laura Lay, our beloved Ash. Welcome, Ash. Damien, Sylvia, Roxana, Lucy, Claudia, Olivia. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Sarah. Annie, yeah, we might need your phone. Annie, we might need your phone. So, but I love like just the sense of being in the moment and being in a state of presence and being in a sense of just alive to what wants to arise next, you know, to what's here next, to what is true, what is the collective intelligence creating through us next. And I love the sense of not knowing, and I love the sense of being present to unfolding the next step. And I love the sense of being in that space together, and the sense of not being attuned to a specific expectation of outcome, but just being in the sense of the journey, the adventure together, and tuning into what happens next. A poignant pause. Poignant pauses are really powerful, you know? It's like, I think some of the most powerful, if we think of conversation and we think of like conversation as like, the talking is like, you know, what's so rich, which certainly it is, but there's these in conversation, I find it's these moments of silence between us that actually creates, right, so much possibility. Exactly. That creates the sense of so much possibility. And that's something that's really powerful, you know, to like acknowledge that and not try to skip it or bypass it. In fact, let's just have a poignant pause for a moment together, you know, just being present together, taking a breath, inhale, and exhale, inhale, and exhale, inhale, and exhale, inhale, and exhale. Inhale, exhale. Yeah, come on over, love. What's the phone part? We're gonna give you a call, Z, and have you on that way. Where's the phone aspect? There's a sense in that, a sense of attuning to something new, to allow new potentiality to come in, to allow sort of like a reset button or a refresh button to come into being, which is to feel the potentiality of what's here. So Z, I'm going to have you come on through the phone. So send me your phone number here, because I can't. So give me your phone number. Okay, so he just gave me your phone number. So we're going to put it in here. 970-239-1919. Call. Speaker.
Welcome to Skype. Sorry, but we don't recognize the telephone number you're calling from. For security reasons, you will need to complete a two-step authentication process. First, enter one of your saved phone numbers.
Okay, and you got to do that. Okay, we're getting closer, Z. Can you do that, please? We're in the process of calling you, but there's a bit of a challenge. It says put in a number that you know. Just try it again. Try to recall it again. Oh, different number here. Let's try this other number. Hi, Jessica. Welcome. Thanks for being here. Welcome, Lynn. What's it say?
Not in service, that number.
The number is not in service. But try the other one again. 970-239-1919. But just see what it says.
So sorry.
No, but you have to keep. What's the idea, Jordan? Tell us the idea you have. By the way, it's good to see you here, Jordan. Temporary block. Oh, okay. Very well. So, neither number works for some reason, I'm being told. So, the last thing to do, if we can't get you on camera or on the phone.
I can call her on Messenger.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Messenger.
Video or not?
Facebook Messenger.
Tell her
No, audio. Or I guess maybe messenger video we could try.
I'm gonna call her right now.
Okay. And he's going to call you on Messenger on Facebook.
You want audio?
You calling? Okay. Is it ringing?
It's ringing.
It's ringing. Yeah, there we go.
Hi there.
Okay,
Hi.
get over.
Hi there. I've been, and I'm not sure what's going on. Hi there.
Hi.
I have no idea what's going on. My camera is totally on. Everything is on.
Okay. Well, this is cool because you're there. See that?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
you. So now we can talk like this.
Okay, so everyone can see me?
Everybody
I doubt
can
it.
see you.
Okay.
Everyone can see me. Can you all see Z?
Okay, this is good.
This is really good. This is we're inventing something like totally different right now. This is like never been done before, I don't think. Uh-oh. Are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're there.
Yes, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah. So hi Z, welcome.
Oh, thank you, Ryan.
It was a challenge making it happen.
But you know, that's perfect because here you were talking about pausing and allowing and relaxing, and here we were. You know, I was just absolutely like laughing the whole time about this brilliance of what is.
It's amazing. It's amazing. So I was getting into some interesting. I was talking about like how I thought it was interesting what you're talking about because I know you. I think of you as like close connected to the Tantra community, and you were talking about how in the Tantra community there's so much this idea of like having the emphasis on great sex, and if you have this great sex, it's going to bring some sort of awakening or presence. And you're saying that it's actually the opposite, right? It's actually the presence and the awakening that brings this other component out of it.
Yes, it's years and years and years and years of me actually being and practicing Tantra. And while I was very, very, very glad to have experienced awakening experiences and also very much rooted in, if I wanted to call it a genre, non-duality genre. And the realization came to me the more I was teaching others or sharing with others, about 20 years now almost, that most people, because the egoic consciousness is so solidified in them, that when they go through some sort of physical rooted activity, so to speak, first, where there is so many wounding, there's so many misconceptions about sexuality for years, and we've had, been told sex is bad, sex is horrible, or religious connotations, and morality, all of these things involved when one begins to explore their sexuality in an open way, in a relaxed way. Many times the actual egoic consciousness becomes very attached to performance, to wanting to achieve something, to acquire something, to get somewhere. It starts with pleasure mostly. And then some sort of, we talk about consciousness a lot in our Neo-Tantra, in our Western society, but there is no reference of just underneath this physical aspect. If you just look, although it's one, if you just look, there is this aware presence. Well, yes, it is true that the very nature of orgasm is that one can drop into this extreme space, this beautiful space of timelessness, pure awareness, no thought. Yet, when you don't have the reference of your fundamental nature, it's bound to get attached to the physicality of everything. And so, not many that will actually wake up through practicing all these sexual practices and expand their consciousness in that way in order to realize their fundamental nature. So, yes, it is to first root in your nature, your core essence, and who you really are. And then from there, one can actually use sexuality via awareness to see glimpses into your fundamental nature, which is you are wholeness and you're ecstatic. Your true nature is surrender and relaxed. It is here now. It is allowing of all things. There is room for everything. So yes, precisely, this is exactly what I have experienced and noticed and have observed for many, many years of practicing tantric practices, and also then having deep meditative experiences of aware presence. And I begin to see that that's what actually relaxed my separation, or my experience of separation with everything, rather than me going through sexuality or sexual energy, shall I say.
Yeah, and I think it's really fascinating because, like I was mentioning this gentleman I was having a conversation with last night, there's this kind of question of, well, how do I wake up? How do I do it? And, you know, he was expressing this kind of frustration to me of, I've been trying all these different, you know, kind of strategies, and I've been trying these different practices, and I've been trying these different techniques, and you know, it's like this question of like, well, if there's a you that wants to attain something, then you're actually increasing the separation, right? So it's this really fascinating thing I find people making a lot of effort to try to get this idea in their head of what they think awakening is, or what enlightenment is, or whatever the term you want to use, what presence is. And can you speak to that a little bit of what you see with that?
Well, you know, I mean, I'm in a place in my life now that I don't really make any conclusions about anything. So I don't know if, you know, what you were saying earlier, like if one was practicing all these things so that actually, you know, that's what creates the ego to inflate. I feel that the deepest aspect of oneself, like no matter what and what you're doing and how you're doing it, the clarity that you are is always already present.
Yeah,
Yeah?
for sure.
The presence, that aware presence that we are, which constitutes this entire universe, which is also life force energy, which is, there's many words, stillness, silence, life force energy. It's always already present. Everyone is conscious of something. Everyone is aware of something. The question is, what are we aware of? What are we conscious of? So awareness, when awareness does not see itself, when we are not turning inwards to look at this substratum, which is silent wholeness, serenity, that is always already present, the awareness itself that is in total relaxation and is here as present moment, then I feel that we will get identified and hooked on our physical aspect or our relative reality. I mean, it's very interesting for me to use all these words, absolute, relative, because they're not separate. It's emptiness, form is emptiness.
Yep.
Yet that's all we've known is this body, this identity, this gender, this name. We are very identified as a society, and when we are given something that years and years and years of suppression of sexuality, and all of a sudden one is introduced to this expansive way of experiencing sexuality, or being okay with having several partners, or being okay with, being comfortable in your body, and all of these things psychologically, I feel, can be very freeing. Yet, when one does not know your core essence, I feel that identification and does not fall away. And then we're doing everything to seek something, one, pleasure. Inherently, nothing wrong or right about that, but just being identified with that is what you were just talking about. Presence itself, and the practice of presence itself, and realization and being familiarized with presence itself is one of the greatest work of us humans. That's something that we must look at prior to getting involved in all these things that is going to take us somewhere or achieve enlightenment. I feel that these tantric practices here in the society are very, very, very good for initial space of freedom, but it's just only on a certain level of freedom, and which is very much rooted in relative. Very seldomly that I have seen, actually never, that one awakens to the absolute and then closes the gap and then lives from that space when they're not really introduced to their true nature.
So tell us how did this journey start for you? How did this begin for you?
Oh, Lord. I am going to speak for the first time about this. I have never spoken about my awakening experience.
All right, this is very exciting.
Yes, because it's quite shocking for many people, and especially people who are affiliated with religious, organized religions that may not sit well with them, but here it is. So when I was 9 years old, I remember laying in my bed and being alone, and I can't recall how I began to start touching myself, and just began to open to this really deep, peaceful space. And then I just kept, it was scary. It was just so expansive that it was a bit scary, and I was a little hesitant. Yet I opened my eyes and I closed my eyes, and then all of a sudden I could feel this infinite vastness, and I began to feel this presence, and it was almost like someone was watching me. And then I began to touch myself in all over the body, and also my genitals and self, as they call it. I mean, I can elaborate that now, and I can give it words now, but as a child, I had no idea except I felt the deepest peace, and held in the sea of presence. And I would say that was an orgastic experience, not necessarily genital-oriented orgasmic experience, but orgastic meaning that life force that is filled with ecstasy, filled with bliss, filled with presence. And simultaneously, I experienced deep sadness, and I experienced deep darkness, and it was all there within me, and within me as in not this identity, this personality, although of course the experience was in the system. I can't really describe it. So I was with it for a long time. I don't even know how long. And then in the background, because I come from an Islamic religion, I was born and raised as one till I was 14, until I left home at 16. In the background, I heard the calling for prayer, which is called azan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, that was azan. So they sing that for the neighborhood so that people can go to the mosque, especially men. And I remember just getting jolted out of this incredible, blissful experience into total contraction and total fear of this enormity that I just experienced. Somehow this sense of constrictive, contrived belief system of I was separate from God, and then the wrath of God's going to come and hit me, because I just felt this experience through my system, through this presence, through this body, through my vagina. Oh my God. So that was just, I just couldn't shake that off. Like at 9, at 10, at 11, I kept trying to go back to that experience by doing the same thing, and yet nothing really was matching that experience, so to speak. And yeah, it's interesting now that there is nothing there. That in and of itself is the clue that there is this no thingness. Yet it wasn't until at 21 or 22, when I was in Europe, I got really, really ill. My intestines burst, and I was taken to the emergency room, and I died on the operating table. My heart stopped, and then I came back. I don't have any recollection of the first time, but the second time I went in again. My body couldn't handle these surgeries. I came back with a colostomy bag, and I was in coma for 20 days. And that is when incredible experience that took place. And I didn't know, of course, 20 days. I didn't know any time. I didn't know anything at the time. Yet I was able to, at first, there was no movement. There was no body. There was just simple awareness. And in that awareness, there was that, just that. But I can't tell you that just being in this deepest silence, this deafening silence, naturally. And then the next thing that happened was I heard my heartbeat as witnessing awareness, hearing do-do, do-do, my heartbeat. And that was just this delight, this ecstasy of being in this body, being in this form. And then I still remember I couldn't find my body. There was no body, but just the heartbeat. And then I began to hear people talking and nurses coming in, and because I was in ICU, and talking about how I may never wake up, or if I wake up, I will have brain damage and all these things. And now I had cognition, And then people talking about how they were angry at someone, like nurses talking. And I remember the first thought that came was, why are we so distressed and in such darkness? While the awareness continued, the infinity, the experience of expansiveness continued within me. And then here is this the most amazing thing. And then somebody was talking about the tree outside, one of the nurses. The tree outside was so beautiful, and I remembered this tree in my backyard, a plum tree, where I used to sit, read with my tea, and smoke a cigarette. I'd smoked Dunhills at the time, and pet my cats. And I just craved this touch, this touch, this tactile love, this love that I had for my animals, and interestingly, this craving of the addiction in the physical body, which was to say, it was nothing profound and spiritual here. I feel it was profound and spiritual, where that was the impetus for me to wake up, open my eyes. Because I wanted to live, I wanted to experience the body, experience the love, experience the touch, experience the addiction as well, and that which as total humanness, as self, and that really took me on the search across the globe. I would say that was the beginning of the end of the beginning, as no end and no beginning. So here we are. And then after that, of course, series of, and this is when I was 22, and so that was 27 years ago, and so series of experiences that took place that confirmed the very nature of us as total wholeness. But I must say that just because I saw this pure awareness, experienced the pure awareness, did not mean that my suffering ended or my conditioning went away. This has been a gradual process of keep resting in and going through the human attachment and human identification, and the mind wanting or collaborating with the egoic consciousness, so to speak, as I see it, and seemingly forgetting the aware presence, which is never really the case. And all of these things, people say, it's very interesting, people say, we have these criterias about all these spiritual teachers and books and things like that, about how once you awaken, that, and there are stories like that, Ramana Maharshi and Adida, there was many teachers, but in my experience, but what I've seen, it is really to learn to be totally human, to accept all that we are, and to see that is our true nature, that it has room for all things. It has room for, it's allowing, it's an okayness of all things arising, yet simultaneously being seen that is not really, truly you. Who you are is beyond that. I can't even give the description, so.
You did a pretty amazing job. That was pretty amazing. I think that it's like, what's so interesting to me is the talk of spiritual experience, right? But what you're pointing at, the way I hear it, actually isn't even an experience. In other words, if experience would cease to exist, what you recognize still exists, right? Yeah. So the experiences can be different kind of experiences can be here. They cannot be here, but this essence of who we are is unchangeable, is unshakable, and it also includes every experience.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And what a relief. What a relief to know that. What a relief to experience that. What a relief to not have to reject oneself.
Yeah.
That does not mean that it doesn't arise due to all of the innocent misperceptions that we've had, the messages that we get from our society, our culture. I would say the solidified ideas and descriptions we have about what we should or shouldn't be, that begins to then get embedded in our system, in our nervous system, and then we're repeating cyclically those ideas about lack and all of self-deficiency. So, yeah, that does not mean that it doesn't arise in most of us, even after seeing this enormity, this inexplicable knowing that we are, the intelligence that we are, the love that we are, it arises. But that's the trick, my friend. The trick is to not get hooked on it and to keep seeing this here whenever we can, and then allow with this space. When I say allow, there's nothing to do here. It's just seeing is freeing. Seeing is freeing. When you allow the thoughts that root you in some sort of idea of this, I am separate, I am this separate entity, I am this, that something has to be defended, something has to be grasped, achieved. Whenever we are rooted in that, there is enormous suffering. I mean, that's the gauge. So just to see that over and over and over whenever we can, brings about the revealing of our true nature, revealing of, it has room for it all. Nothing to reject here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're pointing at, and what I feel I'm pointing at, we're in resonance with, is a sense of embracing every experience, unconditionally embracing whatever experience arises in the moment as is, because it is, and it's the essence. So what's interesting is that the religious background that you grew up in, that I grew up in, that most people grow up in, that's considered spirituality, is sharing something really different than that. It's like, this is good, this is bad, this is the righteous way, this is the way of the sinner. Try to block out this part of yourself. Try to squelch this part of yourself. And I think it's particularly been really damaging around sexuality. There's this such a deep sense of embedded shame and guilt that's in the collective consciousness, just about having sexual desire, just about feeling sexual attraction, and like, why are we so weird about sex? And like, you had this amazing opening at 8 or 9 years old. Through this process of feeling in love with yourself and masturbation, and like, why do we make these things such something to be shameful of and feel guilty about, instead of loving these parts of ourselves? Literally.
Yes. Well, from what I have observed, and my teacher in East India and Kerala, she's passed away. Her name is Sri Mataji, very sweet little small woman that was not famous baby. She was such an amazing teacher for me. You see, she really helped me see the power of and the beauty of love. And sexuality and sexual energy is another means for us to really deeply go into recognizing that I am, my essence is love. Not before you actually recognize that you're present. I just want to emphasize,
yeah,
I can't emphasize that more.
Yeah.
But yes. I mean, it can happen, that's why I don't want to go into conclusiveness. I just want to emphasize that what I've seen over and over happen, and where we veer to if we
Mm-hmm.
do not recognize who we really are. To answer your question, that because this energy is so potent and so expansive, because it is the life force energy. I mean, look around you, look at the trees, look at the flowers, look at the nature. Everything is bursting forth in its full, expansive capacity. Like, wow, here I am with, and I mean, can you imagine like roses blooming and saying, "Oh, I'm so ashamed." This, I mean, nature, we are nature, we are that, we're not separate from it yet. This is the movement of the mind somehow, where we've created all these ideas about our bodies and our sexuality, because it could be such an amazing vehicle for transformation, for us to see no separation between us and life when we become so natural in all aspects of ourselves. And I feel that can also go the other way, which is when you are now seeing this power, because I mean, also look around in many societies in this, we either exploit sexuality or shrink from it. There's no in between. There's not much written in spiritual texts regarding sexuality and religions. Is because the potency of this energy, this life force energy, awakens you to this unabashed, outrageous, free beings that we are. Yeah, and so that could be very threatening to, or have been threatening to those who wanted to control the human psyche, so to speak. And anything that is that expansive can also go the other way very easily when where we use that for power or manipulation or there's a lot of dark things that are going on in the society, and I would really love to put that, like sex trafficking and, as we're seeing that, it's appearing now that we have internet, we see it. It's been happening for eons. It's because of this suppressed sexuality. It's because of us not seeing that as the beautiful gift and an aspect. To see anything we reject within oneself, specifically something as natural and as ecstatic and giving you glimpses into your fundamental nature, will ultimately express itself destructively. And so that's the control that we've all been in, the psychosis, these neuroses of not seeing the actual nature, the holistic nature of self, and that wants to experience itself through this form here in all its glory, in all aspects of oneself, including emotions. That's another thing we must talk about.
Yep.
Today, possibly, but how we see our emotions, how that's why this is what I share and I teach, that with this presence that's the first step, is to not ignore the body. Although, yes, fundamentally, you are not that. You're not your body. You're not your emotions. You're not your thoughts. Yet, the teachings that I work with are sensation-based, to truly feel and see that it's an energy arising that your fundamental self has all the room for, and it moves, it comes and goes, and then there is something that remains, which is that sturdy, pristine clarity, that intelligence that is depthful and loving and present. So we have all these things that we've controlled over the years in society. And I mean, I've talked a lot about that in the past, and I don't really want to go so too much into that, but we all know we all have some sexual story that has just disconnected us from really seeing the beauty of it. And when one knows this substratum, this some people can call it background of serenity, wholeness that we are, when one begins to see glimpses into that, when one begins to experience that, and from that place, experiencing sexuality is a whole another level. You know, it's of course different expression for different people. It's variety, yet how it's experienced through me is another incredible opportunity to deeply love self, which is, I'm talking about the big S, the spiritness that we are, and also having that deep communion with your lover or your partner or another being, and being in this total space of being and allowing the body to do what it does, and to be playful and to be joyful and to be present. That's who we are. That's really, really who we really are. So for me, it's such an incredible another aspect of the self, opportunity to experience love fully. And I mean, I've had experiences where there's like, where my partner begins and where I end, that disappears. So you are so deeply seeing the non-separation or the oneness you are. Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is really fascinating about, I mean, it's so many amazing things that you're sharing. The sexual energy is also the creative energy, you know, so when we suppress and we repress this sexual energy, we're also suppressing and repressing our innate creativity. And, you know, you just find that people that have, and it's a journey for all of us, because almost, like I said, almost everyone in the world has grown up with this conditioning of suppression and repression. So we all have this journey of integrating these parts of ourselves and making them whole. But it's like, as you start to integrate and become whole, you start to become creative, innately creative too, because it's the same energy channeled in a different way. And I almost think when you're talking about how, you know, this people were controlling their sexuality, it's like you're controlling their creativity too. And when you liberate yourself on this level, you liberate the innate creativity and the authentic essence of who you are to express itself in this world. You know, so it's beyond just like having sex. It's like, you know, poetry and music and writing and all sorts of things can come through you, you know?
Yeah, and those things, sometimes poetry and music are the ways and the means through which we speak the truth.
Yes.
And we talk about anything contracted or contrived or deceptive in our cultures and in our societies, and we can talk about our true nature and the aliveness of that, and so therefore that is being suppressed. So because somehow the out of controlness of this idea of self is wrong. Yeah. To just be unabashedly yourself, to unabashedly allowing the experience of godliness through yourself is wrong. You know, that's really the message that we've all gotten in so many different ways, and incredible strategies that this egoic consciousness or this survival dependent nature that has come up with for eons, that does not allow us to experience this fullness of being.
Yes, it's such an amazing journey to be on, and to integrate and to make, you know, it's like to realize your whole self, and like, you know, all these different things that you're kind of resisting or you're suppressing. It's all you. It's all reflections of yourself to love, you know, and to embrace and to recognize as as the essence of who you are. What's we have like a few minutes left, and we definitely want to do a part two to like continue.
Oh, that
But
would be lovely, Brian. I'm so sorry that this all happened. Everyone who's watching this, I was so excited about coming and sharing myself, and the half hour was just sort of gone. But I would love the part two. If we can do that, it would be lovely. Because part two, I really would love to talk about some of the things that I've noticed over the years as I've been teaching about, just the idea of awakening, and then, this our intimacy plays a huge role in that,
mm-hmm.
and not only that, that how we skip the basics a lot. We skip the basics of, we have these experiences, and then we think that we are our experiences. Yeah?
Yes.
You asked today, so I talked about my experience, but I know that experiences also come and go. But,
Totally.
The fact is that here we are, and how we live and how we fully experience all of who we are is very, very important for all of us to really, truly know the nature of presence. That we are, the very nature that can reveal itself, and that's the journey of self-discovery, and also to really recognize the very nature of the mind, which I share and teach, and before anything, the very nature of our egoic consciousness, and to really recognize that, and also to orient ourselves over and over again as to why spirituality. Is it just because we want to alleviate suffering? Or, is it because we really want to know the truth of our being? Is it really want to know the no-thing nature and the everything nature of self? Most of us, I feel, go into spirituality somehow from and it's all beautiful, I must say, but it's the stages where we go conceptualizing, I'm going to rise somewhere and we feel
Yep.
good, and
Yep. Yep.
So I'm sorry, I don't know if we have time or not, but I can go on and on. So yeah.
Well, you know what? I just thought of that's really funny is like, yeah, I'm gonna arrive somewhere. I'm doing this spiritual journey. I'm doing this spiritual journey. I'm gonna arrive somewhere. And what's so funny is you actually don't even know with your mind that you arrived anywhere. It's like if you think you arrived somewhere with your mind, that's not. That's a perfect sign that it's not the truth. It's
our friend Ash. I love what he says. Usually he talks about who's got the problem with the ego.
Yeah.
Who's got the problem with mind.
Yeah.
And that was an amazing impact. When I heard that, it was just like expansive experience of recognizing that yes, when you want to arrive somewhere. Although I must say that there is a process of knowing all of the things that I'm talking about. This is the years and years and years of observation, years and years and years of inquiry, self-inquiry, which is very important, which we don't know. There is the process of coming into, seeing into, being familiarized with this, and making this more and more obvious, this presence that we are. That happens. But there's a subtle thing that if we're going after it, see, it's so subtle because it's right here. And it's
right here.
Under your nose, so to speak. That's why you're missing it. That, through the mind, of course. But it's just be still and know. It's a beautiful way of putting it. It's here. So, and then, yes, there can very well be a process of falling away of the conditioning and the rewiring of the body and the nervous system. And people go through addictions and trauma, and that blocks their ability to truly experience much of being present here, experiencing all emotions and aliveness that we are. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here, Z. It's so great to reconnect. We were saying like, gosh, it's been too long since we've talked together, and
Yes.
it's special.
Yes,
So
it is special.
thanks for being here. Thanks for sharing yourself. How about that? Sharing yourself. And Zeerak Khan, her name, zeerakkhan.com, where you can find out more information, right?
Yes, and I will start doing some workshops soon. They will be in the beautiful city of Tepoztlan, Mexico. I will be putting out information soon. It's starting September and October. Sensation-based, awareness-based practices, including how to harness your sexual energy properly in order for you to have this experience of fullness, but not before one familiarizes with their presence, with the presence that we are. So,
Fantastic.
yes, so there's many exciting things are coming up. And you and I should connect and do something fabulous together.
Look for a retreat with Z and myself, a part of it soon, everybody.
Yes. And Ash.
And Ash Ruiz, our buddy. And feel free to continue to leave comments or questions in the thread here after we go, and we'll stay engaged here.
Yes, and we shall see each other soon because this was so much fun. I want to do it again and
Yes.
again.
Love you, Z.
All right.
See ya.
All right. Love you all. Bye-bye.
See you on the next Now. Thanks for being here. Be back same time next week.